Hi, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. Because I'm getting new viewers, and hooray! Thank you so much. Right. I am going to talk about the elephant in the room. I don't know why this is doing this. I don't care, but it's there and it's going to bother people, so I'm sorry. I don't do things with my hair. That's why I cut it so short. I don't even wear makeup. This is my face, guys. This is my face. So what have I been doing in June? Well, not a lot. It's not been a good month for me. But that's okay. I'm allowed to have not good months. You're allowed to have not good months. I have done some reading. Not as much as I did last month. Last month I'd read heaps. This month I feel it's going a bit slower. I actually think part of it is I'm dragging my heels on my latest reread of Realm of the Elderlings, which I tend to do when I get to the last book, because it's the last book and it makes me sad that it's the last book, even though I know how it ends and it's going to end fantastically. I do tend to read the last one quite a lot slower. So I think that slowed my pace down on a lot of things. So I think once I knock that one out, I'll be able to pick up the pace again for the rest of the books I had in mind for the month. What I have read this month, one of the romances I read, I really super enjoyed. And it's from a debut author, and it's also, I think it's either self-pubbed or indie publishing, indie published. And it's Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. It follows the child of aging 80s pop stars. But, so he's grown into an odd sort of life. And he works for a charity that is all about the preservation of dung beetles. And we have this main character, Luke, who is, well, he's very self-centered and feels very sorry for himself, and I wasn't a huge fan of Luke. I think he's a bit of a dude, get your shit together, man. All of this comes back on you. Seriously, just lift your game. He is photographed outside a bar, and tabloid press being what it is, all of the worst spin is put on his exit from that bar. As a result, this charity loses some sizable donations. So his friend group decides among themselves that he can win back those donors if he is seen to sort his life out. So one of his friends decides, you need a nice boyfriend. You know, you need to look like you're trying to get your shit together. And she hooks him up with another friend of hers. And so we enter the odd couple trope of romances. And Oliver is very put together. He has a very good job. He is very respectable. He has impeccable manners. He is impeccably styled. He is just the most cinnamon of cinnamon rolls. And they rope him in to being Luke's fake boyfriend. And from there we get the fake dating trope. And I have to say that even their fake dating was goals. Their communication was excellent. The way they spoke to each other was wonderful. Every interaction they had made me think, oh my God, why can't people be like that in real life? I loved Luke and Oliver. Brilliant story. Highly recommend. And it's even, I would give it a G rating. I think that the sweatiest it gets is kissing. And I've read some steamy books. This is still among my favourite romances. It is just, I enjoyed it so much. So, if you haven't read the Boyfriend Material, and a really lovely, love lily, is that a word? A love lily written piece of brain fluff appeals, I can highly recommend Alexis Hall's Boyfriend Material. I've read The Last Argument of Kings, which meant I finished the First Law trilogy. And it's my first time reading the First Law trilogy. by Joe Abercrombie. I have both read and listened separately to all 3 books in the past 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. And Stephen Pacey is great as a narrator. He's brilliant. But if I have to hear him say grimace again, I might break something. Dude, the word is grimace. Anyway, I enjoyed those books. They were great. I don't have a problem with the word squelch, although I did find the chatter around that entertainingly funny. I didn't have a problem with the reveal of the instigator of lots of things. I thought that was quite a nice subversion of a trope. I did mind that the trilogy didn't feel like it finished. It just kind of stopped. So while I know there are standalones that come after, and I will be reading them, it doesn't feel like that's actually the end of an arc in that trilogy. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Sorry, Leona. Because I did think of you when I finished that. Oh, I read the prelude to Jago Abdullah's beautiful self-published book, A Touch of Light. The prelude is a prelude to Ashes, and it has griffins. I'm a fantasy fan. I'm into dragons. I'm into wolf companions. All of those kind of things. Griffins we hardly ever see, and these ones have magic, and I am so here for that. So here for that. In talking about a prelude to Ashes, in talking prelude to Ashes, I have to shout out Fine, because last week was my birthday, and I got book mail for my birthday, which absolutely made my week, because she sent me Jago Abdullah's hardcover of A Touch of Light, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I'll be reading from that beautiful book very shortly, because I have just read the prelude and it does have griffins. Another book I have read this month is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. And I've seen this on lots of bookshelves because I do watch BookTube, and it sits on the shelves behind people whose recommendations I pay attention to. But I thought, it looks intriguing, and I've had it on hold from my library for a really long time. And it finally came through this month, and I was like, I don't know. Do I feel like reading it? I don't know. Well, I started reading it and fell in love with the story immediately. It is all of the winter fairy tales that live in my soul. I don't even know what some of those fairy tales are called. But reading Spinning Silver, I know that every single one of those story threads is a traditional fairy tale. And Naomi Novik puts them together with just exquisite skill, and she doesn't just retell these fairy tales. She's created characters who are traversing the threads of these fairy tales in their own way, which is oddly refreshing in all of these really traditional fairy tale boundaries. The 3 main characters are all young women. They're all from very different walks of life. They all interact with people very differently. There are so many interconnected points between them. And the way that Naomi Novik manages to sort of weave that together as satisfying as she does, as satisfyingly as she does, really impressed me, in that it didn't go where I thought it was going to. Because these are traditional fairy tales, you think you know where they're going. But she manages to subvert them in a way that doesn't feel subversive. It still feels like a fairy tale. And it doesn't end where I thought it was going to. And the happy ever afters happened in ways I didn't expect. And because it's a fairy tale, it's going to have a happy ever after. And I really enjoyed it. So that's one I'm actually going to, try and squirrel away a bit of money and buy myself a pretty copy of, because it is one I'm going to read again. I think it's absolutely going to be an ongoing favourite that I reread regularly. And I think if you like fairy tales, if you like the way that fairy tales make you feel, it's very worth your time to at least read it. And if it doesn't tick the boxes that you thought it was going to, then I'm sorry that I wasted your time, but I think it will, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I know I did. Now, I have finished one other book this month, and I finished it on Audible, and it was a reread, kind of. It was a reread in that I have read the book before. It was new in that I had not heard Andy Serkis's narration of Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. Small Gods is one of the most popular of the standalones, and it is probably the most standalone of the standalone books within Discworld. Andy Serkis lifts this book just stratospheric. He is phenomenal. The voice of his villain in this book gave me chills. It was so impressive. So from there, I decided I would fork out, and I got the new audio of The Hobbit, and I'm listening to that at the moment. And Andy Serkis, man, quality. So that'll be my audio for a little while now. It will be The Hobbit, and after that I'll do Lord of the Rings. So that's my audio booked out for the next wee while, and it should get me to my next Audible credit, which will be another of the re-released Witches books in the Discworld series, because they're all being newly recorded with a new narrator. So I'm looking forward to that. Other things I'm in the middle of are the aforementioned last book of Realm of the Elderlings, which is Assassin's Fate. And I know what I'm in store for, and I have stocked up on tissues. I am also in the middle of reading, I'm also reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. Because I'm in Discord and somehow got peer pressured into reading it, I have thoughts, and I am adding them to that Discord's channel, created specifically for me to rant in. Thank you for that, by the way. I am putting my thoughts there as I go. So while it's not my favourite book that I have ever read, I have to say I am enjoying the process of reading a book specifically so that I can note down all of the things that bother me about it. So I may be a rant reviewer in the bud. Who knows? Whether I keep this to Discord or transfer those thoughts into a rant, we shall see. But that there is potential for that, that's for sure. Who knew I would enjoy doing that? But I am enjoying doing that. Another thing I am in the middle of reading are the short stories of Dresden. I am reading Briefcases, because Jake wasn't impressed that I didn't read Cold Case when I went through my first Dresden read. So, sorry Jake, I have righted that wrong. Oh, I started, because it finally came through from the library. I put stuff on hold at the library all the time, and I can never remember what I've got on hold, and then I get the notification that says, hey, this book's ready, do you want to read it? And I'm like, oh, which one was that? This one I knew because a very long time ago somebody said I would love the book A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And that's still on hold, by the way. That's not the book that came. But in looking for that book in the library, I also put a couple of others on hold. And A Psalm for the Wild Built came through yesterday, day before yesterday. And I'm about halfway through. And I have to say, what a brilliantly charming book. I want tea monks to be a thing. Can we have that, please? Just guys with mobile vans, wagons, things, like you get coffee carts. I want a tea cart where the aim is specifically to just go, talk briefly, be given a calming, soothing cup of tea and allowed to rest. What a marvellous thing. So it's won me already, just on that premise. That's before we even talk about the fact that we now have sentient robots who call themselves things like spotted blue butterfly. Charming, charming, charming. Absolutely the word for this book so far. Charming. And if this is any indication for other works by Becky Chambers, I'm in, I'm a fan, no worries. So that's what I am reading, that's what I have read. I don't really have plans, I don't make TBRs, I just kind of keep an eye on what BookTube's doing and decide whether or not I'm going to join in. As for anything else, I am, as I said, about to finish my Realm of the Elderlings reread, which means next month will be the beginning of my next Realm of the Elderlings reread. But this year, something new. This year, I get to read out of the illustrated hardcover edition that I was so marvellously gifted by Jimmy from the Fantasy Network. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to doing that, because the art in that book is exquisite. So I am looking forward to that. That will be next month. So thank you. And on that note, please like and subscribe and, you know, all of that stuff, so that you can find me again in the future, because hopefully you'll want to. That's very arrogant of me in making that assumption, but it's YouTube, and there are weird people on YouTube who have loads of followers, and I don't think I'm that weird. So if they can have lots of followers, there'll be people who are interested in hearing me talk. Maybe. I think I'm interesting to listen to. Let me know if I'm not. Or rather don't. I don't think I'm up for that kind of criticism. With that, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll see you next time.